Watching Vegas TV. We are Vegas.
Glad to welcome Leo Bletnitsky. He is the head of the local Republican Jewish Coalition here in Las Vegas. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Alan. Really enjoy being here, and it's a great topic.
I've been to Israel but once, and that was back in February of '01. And I was impressed by a lot of things I saw there. But the thing that impressed me politically the most was the fact that we'll probably never see a peace in our lifetime because of one particular issue, and that's the issue of so-called right of return, the refugees. That was the big sticking point back in October of 2000. If you recall, Prime Minister Barak gave the house away to Yasser Arafat when they were meeting with Bill Clinton. And what happened at that time was that that Arafat got up and walked out of that conference, even though Barak had given him everything but one thing, and that was the right of return of these refugees. And that means the people who left in 48, 49 to come on back in Israel, and all their progeny to come on back, all their offspring to come on back, which would, of course, make Israel a Palestinian state by default. So that was a sticking point then. It's a sticking point now. And the way the 2004 and 8 platforms of the Democrats read was the creation of a Palestinian state should resolve the issue of Palestinian refugees by allowing them to settle there rather than in Israel, meaning in Palestine,
Correct.
Not in Israel. Isn't it funny that in 2012, that language was no longer involved, and that was something they did not discuss yesterday either?
Absolutely. Keep in mind, if Palestinians are allowed to return, because Israel is a democratic country, they would be able to vote. And very quickly, they would become a majority based on birth rates, and there would be no Israel. Very quickly, they'd be able to implement Sharia law within a decade, which would mean the destruction of Israel. So, this really goes into a bigger kind of thought process on the left, and this is something that I grew up with in San Francisco. The anti-Israel protests, the pro-Palestinian protests. It's something that I see on the left. Even on the moderate left, not just on the far left, that you don't see on the right. There are, of course, kooks on both sides, but this is something that this was the leadership of the Democratic Party prior to their 2012 convention. This isn't a mistake. This was an overt act that they've decided that we need to throw Israel, under the bus, just like Obama's been doing for 3.5 years.
David Axelrod and Valerie Jarrett have now thrown Democrats Mayor Booker and Governor Strickland under the bus, saying that they are to blame for the DNC platform debacle that occurred, and that's where they're placing the blame right now.
I don't know who's to blame, but this is the platform of the Democratic Party, so it can't be one or two guys. If there's one or two people that have the ability to change the whole platform, other than the president himself, then there's probably a problem over there. So, again, these overt acts, the talking about 67 borders, the keeping Netanyahu waiting in the back room, pretty much keeping him on the back of the bus. That's not how we treat allies. Obama has been overtly friendly with our enemies. And at the same time, recently he has pretty much told Iran, we will not back Israel up if they attack you. He hasn't said that Iran, if you attack Israel, we will help them destroy you. He's really said the opposite, that we will not support our ally if they defend themselves.
That's exactly what he said. What does it say about the fact that half that auditorium, and again, I heard that that last vote, half that auditorium was very upset about that vote to now include God and Jerusalem both in the platform, and I think that they were scurrying at the last moment trying to make up for a real foul paw. And I heard half that auditorium not only vote against those amendments, but I heard half that auditorium boo and hiss as well. I want you to listen to this. I want you to play that last vote again, okay? Let's hear that vote one more time. There were 3 votes taken for the amendment to include God and Jerusalem. It took 3 votes. And Antonio Villagrosa says, well, he's heard two-thirds agreed for these amendments. Now, you tell me whether or not you think there were two-thirds or it sounds pretty much 50-50, and then catch the reaction of the audience when he declares it's two-thirds. Listen to this.
All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen.
You know what I heard there? I heard half the people vote aye, half the people vote no, and then I heard the half that voted no yelling and screaming, hissing and booing.
I don't even think it was half and half. I think it was 60-40 against. And it's just, this is part of the further left that people are, the more anti-Semitic they are, and the more anti-religious they are. And somehow they are offended by, they're not offended by political correctness and symbolism over substance. They're offended by Jews because Jews are successful and they're not, typically on welfare. And so that's, even though they vote Democrat, they're somehow still the scapegoat. It really makes no sense. And then they're also offended by anyone that mentions God. Although, Allah is okay, but God is not something that we can mention in the United States anymore.
So Allah's okay, but God is not. They're supposed to be having a 2-hour prayer event. By the way, the Democrat convention, that's going to be a Muslim prayer event. They initially did not want to have a Catholic bishop or priest give a convocation. They gave in again when that stuff hit the fan, but it was automatically okay to have a 2-hour Muslim prayer event occur as part of the Democrat convention, which we've discussed already. Again, you're watching an Eye in Vegas, and I'm talking with Leo Bletnitsky. He's head of the local Republican Jewish Coalition. And yes, there are Jewish Republicans out there. More today than you can ever believe, by the way. You're watching an Eye in Vegas. If you're watching an Eye in Vegas, sit back and relax. If you're listening on News Talk 720 KTWN and you want to join in, 257 KTWN 257-5396. Your reaction to the reaction of the people who were in that Democrat hall yesterday, the delegates to that amendment. Your reaction to those reactions and more coming up in just a few moments. I'm Alan Stock.
I'm Dean Heller, and I approve this message.
For 2 years in a row, Shelley Berkley has been named one of the most corrupt members of Congress. 2 years in a row. Now her colleagues have voted unanimously to launch a congressional investigation into her misconduct. Why? Because she used her office to twist arms in Washington to help her husband's business. A business that's made her one of the richest members of Congress. Shelley Berkley, textbook definition of corrupt. 2 years in a row.
The staff was extremely friendly. They guided me step by step, got me twice, almost triple the amount of what I expected from my personal injury damage. They're definitely the people to call if you're in an auto accident.
Small businesses like ours are what have driven this country, and President Obama just doesn't seem to understand that.
There's a reason there aren't more jobs. Obama has made a lot of bad decisions. He treats us like we are his enemy.
He's increased our taxes, he's increased our health care expenses.
We've gotten so many regulations that you can't keep up on, and you don't know what more is coming down the pike. Obama definitely is making things harder for us. If he has 4 more years, I don't think we're going to want to see what it looks like.
American Crossroads is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Do insurance companies stack the deck against you with high-powered attorneys and expert witnesses? Yes, they do. I'm attorney Bob Vanna. I've been winning injury cases in Nevada since 1976. How? By knowing as much or more than doctors hired and paid by insurance companies.
This is what wins cases and gets bigger settlements. When cross-examining their doctors with specific questions, it's important to know the answer before you ask the question.
Golightly & Associates, 222-3333.
Most Nevadans don't have an extra $6,400 in their piggy bank, but under Dean Heller's Medicare plan, that's how much you're gonna need. Heller voted twice to take away Medicare's guaranteed benefits, turning it into a voucher program. A plan that a nonpartisan research institute says would increase seniors' costs by $6,400 a year. Heller would then use his Medicare cuts to give millionaires another massive tax cut. With Dean Heller, you're gonna need a lot bigger piggy bank. The Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
We're talking about the Democrat convention, some of the things that have gone on, and the pro-Israel language that had been in the previous platforms of the Democrat Party removed this year until this latest vote reinstituting God and Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and obviously over the objection of about half the people inside the room. We've seen a lot of things at this convention that have been amazing. And I mentioned also the fact that we see buttons that say vote black which, had you seen vote white at a Republican convention, would have been construed as racist. We saw the DNC had a video tribute to Ted Kennedy, the only politician with a confirmed kill in the war on women. So, I mean, all this is going on with the Democrats, and we want to get your thoughts as well at 257 KTWN. If you're listening on KDON, if you're watching on Eye in Vegas, sit back and relax. Phil, you're on with Leo Bletnitsky. Welcome.
Yeah, how you doing? I wanted to make a comment on what Mr. Clinton had said yesterday.
Yes.
I believe that was a warning to us. Yeah, we're going to feel it, all right? We've been feeling it, and I think people really need to take note of the things that are being said. And I saw that movie 2016 last week, and
yes.
I'd like to make a comment about something that hit me.
Okay.
His book that he wrote, Mr. Obama, I believe that he was talking about the 6 mentors, not his biological father in that book. And that's the way I grasped it. Maybe I'm wrong, but for somebody who didn't know his father but knew those 6 mentors throughout his whole life, I think that's where the impression came from, and that is where the book was inspired.
I think you're right. I think that's what the movie kind of points out. Again, the movie, as you saw, is not a mean-spirited movie. Dinesh D'Souza talks about his life coming here as an immigrant from India, and then he switches on over to the life of Barack Obama, and also again says that he was born in Hawaii, and he confirms that, so we get away from the birther issue, and he goes right into the idea how his mother, who lived in Indonesia with Barry Soetoro, Senior, she was not getting along with him. Young Barry was not getting along with older Barry, and so she shipped him off to live in Hawaii with her folks, his maternal, Barack Obama's maternal grandparents, and it was his maternal grandfather that introduced him to a man who mentored him for the next 10 years, who was a card-carrying member of and theoretician for the American Communist Party. And again, these are documents. These are not mean-spirited or made-up facts.
Right. Well, that's why I like to bring to light that fact that I think that all of those inspirations came from those who he surrounded himself with, and not his biological father. And the movie suggests that he really didn't even know his biological father.
That is absolutely correct. Phil, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Have you seen 2016?
You know what? I have not seen it. I'd like to see it sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, you got to go see it ASAP. It is a great show. Big John, you're on with Leo Bletnitsky. Good morning.
Hey, Big Daddy, what's happening?
Hey, Big John. Hey, what's up?
Hey, just 2 comments on the last night's convention thing. Number one is they keep saying, it drives me nuts. This one lady keeps saying, or other people, whatever, that corporations are not people. People are people with blood and hearts and all this stuff. Yeah. Why doesn't somebody confront one of these morons and ask them, okay, a corporation's not people. Now you tell us then, what is it?
Yeah, it's a conglomeration of people who make it right. Well, yeah, but
honestly,
they're playing the class card. They're playing the class card is what they're doing. The race card, the class card, they're both being played.
What a joke! A corporation is people, you moron. But the point is, when that guy was taking the vote, the mayor of L.A., Alan, when he was taking the vote, did you catch what that lady said that walked up behind him?
No.
After 2 votes, did you catch what she said?
I did not.
Okay, she said to him, and it's on the tape. She said to him, "Oh, don't worry. They're going to do what they're going to do." In other words, who cares what they said? They're going to do what they're going to do, she said.
Well, they didn't care. I mean, you heard the vote also. That was not 2/3. It was more 50-50, or as Leo said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what she said to the guy. Don't worry about how they vote. They're going to do what they're going to do. How they vote doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't need your stinking vote to count. Absolutely. Big John, go ahead real quick.
Okay, I was going to say real quick on the Arab. Fox News showed the Arab Democrats or something, and they were booing like there's no tomorrow.
Well, I watched C-SPAN during this vote, and the C-SPAN camera was focused on what was called Arab American Democrats, and they were furious. And when they finally decided, when Villagarosa said, "Okay, 2/3 and it carries," these guys stood up and they went ballistic, and understandably so, because the vote went their way, if anything, and yet the chair recognized it any way they were going to do it. Like the woman said, they were going to do it any way they were going to do it.
Yeah. One thing that nobody seems to have talked about is that what would the vote had sounded like if the God and the Jerusalem issues had been separated.
Great point.
What a mess. Really
Big John
shows their true colors. These people are really out of touch.
Thanks for your call, Big John. Good to hear from you. I'm talking with Leo Bletnitsky. He is the head of the Republican Jewish Coalition here in Las Vegas, and we're going to continue our discussion in just a few moments on IN Vegas and News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock.
Pretty ladies bring me luck.
They were all American college boys who thought they had the perfect scam. Now there's a murder.
We can't lose if we try.
Now do we have your attention? On the next Law & Order Criminal Intent.
Up next on Vegas TV.
America looks to Judge Joe for justice.
I protect womanhood and I promote manhood.
Look, you, man up. Bringing manhood to your hood. Judge Joe Brown.
Tomorrow at 2 and 2:30, only on Vegas TV.
We know all about Shelley Berkeley's ethics, controversy stretching back years, now using her office to enrich herself. But what about her policies? They're even worse. Berkeley voted to cut Medicare spending by $700 billion. And Berkeley's vote could give bureaucrats the power to cut Medicare spending even more, jeopardizing care for those who need it most, slashing Medicare spending, enriching herself. That's shameful. That's Shelley Berkeley. Crossroads GPS is responsible for the content of this advertising.
We don't make cars for people who want to look a certain way. Or cars for people who want to be seen a certain way. We make cars for people who want to feel a certain way. We only make one thing. The ultimate driving machine. Lease a BMW 328i sedan for $359 a month until October 1st.
It's a simple vaccine to prevent cervical cancer for women. It saves lives. But Joe Heck voted against requiring insurance companies to pay for it. He says that women get cancer from engaging in risky behavior. Joe Heck even opposes a woman's right to choose and voted against funding for Planned Parenthood, which provides cancer screenings for over 700,000 women a year. Joe Heck? Heck no. He's way too extreme for Nevada. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
You want family dinner to be special.
Dad, we want pizza.
You guys said tacos.
It doesn't always work out that way.
You know what? We're spending too much money on eating out anyway. Honey, come look at this.
My Money Map from Wells Fargo is a free online tool that helps you track your spending. So instead of having to deal with a tight budget, you could have a tighter family. Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Some of our children's greatest experience have been in the smaller classrooms.
But Mitt Romney says class sizes don't matter. And he supports Paul Ryan's budget, which could cut education by 20%.
You can't do this by shoving 30 or 35 people in a class and just teaching to some test.
These are all issues that really he personally cannot relate to be able to afford an education, to want the very best public education system for your children.
A lot of the younger people are starting to really come out of the political closet, so to speak, and declaring themselves conservatives.
Well, it depends on whether they're immigrants to this country. Like me and my family, we came from the Soviet Union. Most Russian Jews in California, where I came from, are Republican. Most Russian Jews that were born in the Soviet Union are Republican. Some of their kids fall into the Democrat trap of social justice, and I understand where they're coming from that standpoint, but you have to use some common sense. I want to help people too. I just don't want to help people that want to kill me. I don't want to help people that refuse to help themselves. That's a big fundamental difference in philosophy.
I don't think there's a problem with social justice. I mean, I don't know who is opposed to social justice. I've never heard of Republicans say we're opposed to social justice. We want people to be downtrodden and be stepped on, although that's how it's being portrayed at the Democrat convention. But I've never heard a Republican ever allude to anything close to that.
Well, it's just a different philosophy. We want to help people to better themselves. They want to just give to people whether they're willing to make a change in their life or willing to put out an effort. If you don't put out an effort, you really aren't entitled to anything. And that's the real big difference in philosophy. And the other thing being pushed is this: the Republicans are the old, the party of the old people, of the racists. Don't forget, who were the racists? You had to be a Democrat to be a member of the KKK. The Democrats were the ones that had to, blacks in the South had to be protected from. It wasn't the Republicans. The Republicans were the ones that were marching with Martin Luther King back then. That's the real big thing that's been missed. And the Democrats are the ones that gave us welfare, and welfare has done more to hurt minority families than any other policy in the history of this country. Other than slavery, obviously. The
difference in philosophy between the two, between Republicans and Democrats, or conservatives and liberals, is the old maxim about it's better to teach a man how to fish, he'll eat forever, as opposed to giving him fish, he'll eat for one night. So, and Democrats want to provide, let me give it to you right now. You don't have to do anything for it. And Republicans are saying, basically, we want to teach you how to become independent, how to be able to fend for yourself, how to be able to survive on your own. And this is what Republicans basically, and this is the difference between the two philosophies.
Yeah, and a lot of it also is selfish. It's a selfish need to control, because when someone depends on you for their survival, for their bread, and they can't do it for themselves, you pretty much own them. This is a form of slavery. And so instead of empowering people, educating them to think for themselves and to earn for themselves, they're pretty much saying that it's okay that 35% of families in this country are on government assistance. That's not okay. If someone falls on hard times, we should help them. But we shouldn't help them for 3 generations. That's just wrong.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Some of our children's greatest experience have been in the smaller classrooms.
But Mitt Romney says class sizes don't matter. And he supports Paul Ryan's budget, which could cut education by 20%.
You can't do this by shoving 30 or 35 people in a class and just teaching to some test.
These are all issues that really he personally cannot relate to be able to afford an education, to want the very best public education system for your children.
It's September, and that means it's time to spin to win. For the first time in Las Vegas and only at the South Point, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, every 300 points earns you a spin on the wheel, while at any dedicated slot or video reel machine, win up to $100 in free play, or 100,000 points with each spin. It's the September Spin to Win, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, first and only at South Point, the point of more return.
Obama promised.
If your family making less than $250,000 a year, my plan will not raise your taxes.
Untrue. Middle-class Americans face a huge tax increase because of Obamacare. Now Obama claims Mitt Romney will raise middle-class taxes. Also untrue. Romney's plan lowers middle-class tax rates by 20%. Barack Obama, dishonest on taxes because he's failed on jobs. Crossroads GPS is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, in search of UFOs.
Alan, I was watching the tour that we took here of the Area 51 Museum, and I noticed as we walked through the whole thing, I said, wow, a lot.
Wow, and that's because there's a lot to say wow about it.
Wow, look at this. Wow. Exactly. Where were you born?
In Odessa, in the Soviet Union. At the time, it was the Soviet Union. Now it's the Ukraine.
What was it like for you growing up under communism?
I was 5 years old when I came to this country, but my parents have told me what it was like and why they immigrated. And the big issue is the more further to the left, the more anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism is part of that left-wing culture. Everywhere in the world where you have strong socialism, like France, England, Jews are told not to wear yarmulkes because the groups of Muslim youth will attack them, and they just call that street crime. They don't call that hate crimes or Jew battery or whatever. They're calling that just street crime. So just wear ball caps, don't wear yarmulkes. But in the Soviet Union there was no opportunity also. So there's no way to better yourself without being either a government hack or being a criminal. And so the only people that really do well in those systems are the people willing to bend the rules and steal, or work for the government and get to a position where they could steal even more than the crooks.
You know, I told you I was in Israel once, and when I was there, I happened to meet two gals. One was from Ethiopia, and another one was from Russia, from the Soviet Union, and both had lived under oppression. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, talking to the gal who was from Russia, who had actually lived under Soviet communism, she said that it was, in those days, it was actually a crime for Jews to possess unleavened bread or matzah during Passover.
Well,
it was a crime.
Well, in communist societies, and not so much in social societies, but in communist societies, the state is God. That is why in China, religion is violently suppressed. In Russia, religion was suppressed. Not just Jews, but Christians and everyone else. And because the state is the highest power in those societies. And if you listen to some of the rhetoric coming out of the Democratic Convention, again, it's the government that is supposed to give you a job. Create your own job. You know, I haven't looked for a job in 17 years because I've been self-employed, not always successfully. Sometimes you're flat broke, but the goal is to not always be broke.
You know, and you're right about the further left you go. On the left, you've got socialism, you've got communism, you've got Nazism, all of that on the left. And on the right, which is all government control.
Absolutely.
And it's all anti-Semitic. You go to the right, and it's anarchy. I mean, if you go to the far right, the extreme. And there is much less anti-Semitism and racism on the right than there is under any government control whatsoever.
Well, it's a difference in volume. You have some fringe groups on the right that also are extremely racist and anti-Semitic, but those are fringe groups. They don't control anything. The fringe groups on the left control half the Democratic Party. That's the danger. They control the education establishment.
Leo Bletnitsky, I want to thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you stopping by. Leo Bletnitsky is the head of the Republican Jewish Coalition locally, and I thank you for stopping by.
Thank you very much. And anybody that wants to join the RJC or get more information, go to www.rjchq.org.
All right, there you go.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm Alan Stock. Have a great day. Drive carefully, and always keep on thinking free.
Now that's what I call a test drive.
Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road. So what do you think?
I'll take it.
It's Chevy Truck Month. Now during Chevy Truck Month, get 0% APR financing for 60 months or trade up to get the 2012 Chevy Silverado All-Star Edition with a total value of $8,000. Hurry in before they're all gone.
With stories from the Las Vegas Sun, it's Vegas Sun News.
National Hispanic Heritage Month is just around the corner, covering Independence Days from a series of Latin American countries. More than a dozen of them will be represented September 15th at the second annual Fiesta Las Vegas Latino Parade and Festival downtown. For the full list of events, log on to LasVegasSun.com. The Clark County Commission first issued an ordinance on the handbills distributed on the Strip. And now they're going after the look of news racks that carry the same kind of leaflets. They say creating a uniform style of news racks will help make the Strip look a little cleaner and orderly. I'm Mortal Dahan, and thanks for watching.
Check out more stories about the Valley in Southern Nevada at LasVegasSun.com.
We don't make cars for people who want to look a certain way. Or cars for people who want to be seen a certain way. We make cars for people who want to feel a certain way. We only make one thing: the ultimate driving machine. Lease a BMW 328i sedan for $359 a month until October 1st.
It's time to stand up to the cheaters and make sure we protect jobs for the American people.
Mitt Romney, tough on China? Romney's companies were called pioneers in shipping U.S. manufacturing jobs overseas. He invested in firms that specialized in relocating jobs to low-wage countries like China. Even today, part of Romney's fortune is invested in China. Romney's never stood up to China. All he's done is send them our jobs.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
You're watching Vegas TV. We are Vegas.